Sri Lanka can stand tall in the face of the world for the commitment made by the health sector in fighting COVID-19, says the Prime Minister. Several factions voice against the US Embassy official who violated health regulations at the BIA. A revelation about the garbage pileup at the Mount Lavinia beach. 2 children and a father die after drowning in Madulsima, Badulla. Hundreds of former national security officials criticize US President Trump for misusing the military for political purposes.
A very good evening and a warm welcome to your weekend edition of Primetime News on TV1. On to your lead local news. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa today declared open the new cardiac intensive care unit at the Tangor Base Hospital.
Minister Chamal Rajapaksa and Shiranti Rajapaksa were among those present for the opening. The new cardiac intensive care unit was constructed after renovating an abandoned building which used to belong to the old Tangol prison, with financial support from a local businessman. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa planted a mango tree sapling at the premises. There was never a shortage of health ministers in the Hambantota district. Despite the fact, I do wonder why it took such a long time to construct a cardiac intensive care unit for the local area. As the Venerable Thero said, this is no longer a hunting ground or a prison. This is a place which will cater to the health requirements of all. My duty is to ensure we have a healthy society and supply food for this purpose. If it goes ahead, in the next 5 years to come, we can close down these hospitals.
I believe Sri Lanka's health service can stand tall in the face of the world because of their untiring efforts and sacrifices. When several so-called developed countries were unable to manage the coronavirus outbreak, a small island like Sri Lanka was able to manage the situation well because of the untiring efforts of our health service. We commend the services of Sri Lanka's health sector.
Former permanent representative of Sri Lanka to the United Nations office at Geneva, Thamara Kunanayakam, said, at a time that the Sri Lankan government, with its limited resources, must protect its own citizens from the devastation of the pandemic and has even hesitated to repatriate its own workers from the Gulf states, it cannot allow the US Embassy official to flout our laws and regulations and put the lives of our people at risk.
The former permanent representative of Sri Lanka to the United Nations added that under the circumstances, the government must resort to Article 9 of the Vienna Convention and request the US Embassy to withdraw the diplomat in question or, as a last resort, notify the sending state that the diplomat is persona non grata. Persona non grata stipulates that the receiving state may at any time, without having to explain its decision, notify the sending state that one of the members of the diplomatic staff is no longer welcome. This incident has become a focal point of discussion on the political platform.
The right course of action has been decided based on his diplomatic rights. The airport has done nothing wrong. There are laws like that. It is the US Embassy which has to take responsibility of him and ensure he will be subjected to home quarantine.
Home quarantine කරන පදනම යටතේ.
දැන් එතකොට මේ රටේ සාමාන්‍ය ජනතාව කරන කැපවීමට වඩා එතුමාගේ මුක්තියද වටින්නේ.
නෑ එතුමාගේ මුක්තියට ඒක.
Shouldn't his immunity be protected? This is the same thing that happens to us when we go overseas. If our ambassador goes to the US or to any other country to assume duties, then he too has similar rights.
එයාටත් ඒ අයිතිය මේ රටේ තියෙනවා.
ඒ කියන්නේ ඕනෑම රාජ්‍යතාන්ත්‍රික නිලධාරියෙක්ට PCR පරීක්ෂණය කරන්න.
ඒක ඇමරිකාවෙන්.
That is not only for a US diplomat. This can apply to any diplomat from Cuba or the Soviet Union. That is the value of that passport.
පාස්පෝර්ට් එකේ තියෙන වටිනාකම.
තානාපතිවරා ප්‍රසාද තිබෙන්නේ.
Diplomatic immunity exists for activities connected to foreign missions. A diplomat cannot drive his vehicles on the right side of the road or ignore the red traffic signal citing diplomatic immunity. We see this as a serious act of misconduct. The problem is that the government had not prepared the directives that should be followed by diplomats. The government has always been closing the stable door after the horse has bolted.
තාණ්ඩුවේ බොහෝ දේවල් වල තිබෙන්නේ.
We allowed him to leave the airport in keeping with the Vienna Convention. According to the convention, diplomats have permission to enter or leave the country without any obstruction. We have made a decent request regarding our work plan. However, we cannot take action against them if they do not respect that.
That person is violating the quarantine ordinance in the country. We wish to stress that the Foreign Ministry must immediately intervene and subject him to a 14-day quarantine period and also press charges against him for violating the country's law and then deport him from the country.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa is of the view that the law must be enforced equally on both locals and foreigners. The necessary revisions are being made regarding the areas in which this is not implemented.
Question the US national and conduct a PCR test on him if possible. We wish to ask the faction including Veerwansa and Gammanpila to take relevant action concerning the official. We also wish to ask the foreign minister and the foreign secretary to do the needful.
Meanwhile, speaking to a newspaper, Admiral Professor Jayanath Kolumbage has said that the recent incident involving the US diplomat had become a learning moment for the country. Professor Kolumbage noted that official approval for the diplomat to arrive in Sri Lanka was sent on the 26th of May, before PCR tests were made mandatory at the airport on the 1st of June.
On to some news from the local arena. Now, people love to enjoy nature with a free mind and visit natural waterways and ponds. However, one must always pay attention to the surroundings when visiting such places. An incident from Badulla reminds us of why it is always important to be attentive. For the first time in their lives, a father, along with his daughter and a nephew and a niece, had visited the Garandi Elder Falls in Badulla this morning. Reports said the 12-year-old daughter had drowned in a natural pond and the father had jumped into the water in an attempt to save her. Sadly, as the two went down, a 13-year-old niece had made an attempt to rescue them both. Her attempts were in vain, as all three drowned, leaving behind only the nephew, who is a grade 7 student. His screams brought the locals to the site of the tragedy, and following the intervention of the Passara police, the bodies of the victims were brought ashore and taken to hospital. The tragedy had left the entire village of Madosima in shock. A youth who entered the Samanala River in Balangoda from the Ulupitiya area drowned last evening while bathing. The victim had visited the Samanala River along with 3 friends who claimed they saw their friend drown but were unable to rescue him. The Balangoda police launched a search and rescue operation last evening to locate the deceased victim. Navy personnel from Kirinda were called in, and after much effort, the body of the victim was retrieved. The victim was a 21-year-old from Alutnura in Balangoda. Interestingly, a notice placed on a gate at the site by the Ulupitiya Fisheries Association warns people from getting into the water from the area.
මීට කලිනුත් මේ වගේ සිද්ධීන් මේ වැවේ කීපයක් වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඊටාමම අවදානම් තත්ත්වයක් තියෙන. යාමට වැඩි පිටින් එන කට්ටිය කිසිම අවදානමක් නැහැ මේ වැව ගැන. මෙම වැවේ නාන සුදුසු ස්ථානයක් නෙමෙයි මෙතන.
Due to the extended holiday, some people have decided to go on tours, and as a result, there is an increase in drowning incidences. People are keen in engaging in water-related activities and sports during such tours and visits. Health officials have not given the green light for the general public to go on tour. At the same time, when it's water-related activities, these days the currents may be too dangerous.
The Mount Lavinia beach is in a pathetic state due to the pollution of the beach stretch amidst a beach nourishment project. Our reporters visited the Mount Lavinia beach today.
The Mount Lavinia beach, which is a hotspot for both local and foreign tourists, is now in a questionable state. The three-phase Colombo South Beach Nourishment Project is being carried out at the beaches of Calido, Angulana and Mount Lavinia. A sum of 889 million rupees had been paid as contractor fees for the project to a company in Denmark. The artificial beach, which was created by spending public funds, is now gradually diminishing. 150,000 cubic meters of sand had been filled artificially along the Mount Lavinia beach under Colombo South Beach Nourishment Project. However, a report published by a team of researchers that included Professor Charita Pattiarachi, marine biologist Asha DeVos and Nadia Azmi of Ocean Bill has shown that the project had been carried out without proper planning.
We all know that no studies or an EIA has been completed. So there is no evidence to say the placing of 150 cubic meters of sand on the beach at Mount Lavinia in the shadow of a headland is sufficient or not. We normally, in studies like this, we do a sand budget. But because there's a sand budget has not been done, we don't know how much sand is required. I know what this beach has been for the last 40 years, and really nothing has changed. There is no evidence of erosion. Yes, there are areas where there are boulders, where the sea has come, but those boulders had lasted for 40 years. There is no reason at all, from what I can see, a justification to put sand in for a nourishment project.
According to a report which seemingly has been prepared after filling sand, the contract for the project had been awarded to Denmark-based Road Nielsen Company. However, the report, which has been prepared by the chief engineer at the Department of Coast Conservation and Coastal Resources Management, does not provide clear details regarding the areas towards which the funds had been spent. Although municipal council members, the police and volunteer groups had cleaned the beach recently, the coastal stretch was seen littered again as waste materials have continued to wash up on the shores in the last 2 days. Cleanup activities on the beach had taken place once again this morning. Waste that can be seen floating on the seas of Mount Lavinia and its surrounding areas is washed up on the beach due to the waves.
Generally, waste materials such as king coconut shells, footwear and sticks wash up on the shore during this period. However, this time it is plastic and polythene that has been washed up onto the beach. That means that this waste belongs to some institution or person. Definitely, if you inquire about this from residents, they will say that large amounts of plastic and polythene had not been washed up like this before. This is the coast along which we had filled sand. We have a suspicion as to whether this was an attempt to sabotage the project. We conducted a small investigation into this. This is a bag that has been manufactured by the Moratuwa Municipal Council. If this bag has been floating in the seas for several days, this wouldn't be the condition of the bag. This would have decayed to a certain extent. This manufacturing date reads as the 14th of May 2020. We have a suspicion as to whether waste had been dumped into Moratuwa, Ratmalana and Angulana. We distributed dry rations among 9,000 people in Moratuwa on the 26th of March after the coronavirus had started spreading. That bag has been used to put dry rations. While managing waste, we do not have any requirement to dump it into the sea. The Coastal Conservation Authority can conduct an investigation together with another party if required. I wish to responsibly state that the Moratuwa Municipal Council does not dump waste into the sea.
Regardless of what is being said, haven't the people been inconvenienced as a result of a project that has been carried out using their funds? The police have launched an investigation into the incident. Together with the people, we will remain vigilant until the individuals who are involved in destroying this magnificent beach are revealed.
Meanwhile, Minister of Wildlife S.M. Chandrasena expressed the following views regarding the waste that had washed up on the beach. We saw that the waste released by certain institutions had flown into the sea through rivers and had been washed up on the beach. I feel that the current laws to protect the environment are insufficient. If what we are requesting is not fulfilled by the people, then we will protect the environment by implementing the required laws or by imposing punishments. It is our duty. We expect to fulfill that.
Among the many reports on the damage caused by humans to the environment, people who love and care nature still exist. The following visuals of a police officer caring for animals have been making the rounds on social media. According to the Finance Ministry, the budget deficit is expected to widen to 8.5% of GDP against 6.8% in 2019. According to the Finance Ministry, the overall fiscal balance is expected to increase to 1.4 trillion rupees in 2020, a 32% increase against 1.01 trillion rupees last year. The deficit of 325 billion rupees will be financed via 37% of foreign financing, while the remaining will be financed domestically. According to the Finance Ministry, the budget deficit is expected to widen to 8.5% of GDP against 6.8% last year, much higher than the IMF's projection of 5.3%. State revenue is expected to decline by 24% to 1.5 trillion rupees in 2020 compared to last year's figure of 1.9 trillion rupees, mainly due to the decline in tax-based revenues. State expenditure is expected to marginally decline by 4% to 2.8 trillion rupees. However, subsidies and transfers are estimated to increase by 68 billion rupees, while salaries and wages are expected to increase by 64 billion rupees. Speaking to Newsfirst, Secretary to the Treasury S.R. Artigala said the Treasury is currently in the process of recording approximately 300 billion rupees worth of debt that was not recorded in 2019. A protest had been staged in Valimada urging officials to resolve their problems on the shortage of fertilizer. Meanwhile, several other areas have been battered by the shortage of fertilizer. Farmers in the areas of Padalangala and Kuttagala in Ambalipitia have cultivated crops across 4,000 acres of land. Ladies' fingers, chilies and eggplant are among the crops that have been cultivated in addition to paddy. However, these farmers have found themselves in the midst of a crisis due to the lack of fertilizer.
We put fertilizer to these after purchasing it for 1,700 rupees. That cultivation has developed well. However, look at this side of the cultivation. We don't have fertilizer to put to this part of the cultivation. In order for these plants to grow, fertilizer is required. But there are no places to buy fertilizer even at a higher price.
Farmers in Spring Valley in Badulla complain that they have not received adequate amounts of fertilizer due to the negligence of agrarian officers. At least 100 families in the area earn a living by cultivating crops such as beans and tomatoes.
We have not received fertilizer due to the shortcomings of the agrarian office. To cultivate vegetables, give us fertilizer equivalent to that which is given to cultivating paddy. Therefore, make fertilizer available to be purchased even at higher rates. It is very clear that there is sufficient fertilizer in the country and that has been distributed. In April last year, we had distributed 18,000 metric tons of fertilizer to cultivate crops other than paddy. This time we distributed 25,000 metric tons. In May we distributed 37,000 tons. We have distributed 48,000 tons of fertilizer this year. In June last year we distributed 33,135 tons. We expect this figure to go up to 60,000 this month. 67,000 metric tons of urea had been distributed last year. However, we have distributed 80,000 metric tons this year. We have fulfilled 90% of the requirement in all districts. Officials at the National Fertilizer Secretariat are saying that there is no shortage of fertilizer. If that is the case, why are farmers demanding fertilizer by staging protests opposite the economic centre? The officials at the National Fertilizer Secretariat are lying.
He made these remarks during a protest demanding a solution to the fertilizer shortage that had been held near the dedicated economic centre in Kapetipola. The All Ceylon Farmers Federation also took part in the protest. The protesters demanded a solution to the fertilizer shortage and asked for sufficient fertilizer to be given to cultivate potatoes.
The farmer has been affected today just as the vegetable farmer was affected last year without fertilizer to cultivate crops. This is the season to cultivate potatoes. The Uva Paranagama area does not require fertilizer that is not distributed on time.
Moving the Ministry of Agriculture to a private establishment on rent was another matter that sparked controversy during the previous governments. The Ministry of Agriculture was moved to the DPJ building in Rajagiriya after the previous establishment it was housed, the Govijana Mandirya, was taken under the purview of Parliament for a period of 5 years. The cabinet paper was presented by then Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe with the approval of the Minister of Agriculture of the Government of Good Governance, Duminda Dissanayake. Subsequently, subject ministers Mahinda Amravira, P. Harrison and Chamal Rajapaksa paid a monthly rent of 21 million rupees for the first 3 years and 756 million rupees was paid as the total rent for the first 3 years. After the first 3 years, another 15% was added to the monthly rent and as a result, rent for a month was increased to 24.5 million rupees. With that amendment, the total rent for the last 2 years amounted up to 579.6 million rupees. This matter also gained the attention of the COPE as well as the Presidential Commission that was appointed to investigate corruption in the previous government.
The Agriculture Ministry had wasted millions of rupees to rent out a building. Farmers did not benefit from this. This was a move in line with their personal interests. Although several subject ministers of previous governments attempted to move the ministry to another building, those attempts were proven futile.
We want a clean parliament. We want a clean government. Think before you vote.
Cricket is a game that is loved by the 22 million people of Sri Lanka. Funds are received for the game to develop its standards in the country. The officials of the Cricketing Authority do not have the right to abuse these funds which belong to the cricketers of this country. Cricket is a game that belongs to the people of the country and not to the administrators of the game. And that is why Newsfirst has been reporting on all these incidents continuously. What happened to the proposed cricket university that was expected to be constructed in Kandy? This is another revelation regarding the project.
On the 22nd of April 2017, the Executive Committee at Sri Lanka Cricket had decided to obtain 26.2 million rupees annually for 30 years to construct the cricket university and also 25 million rupees each for 2 other projects. Although 26.2 million rupees had been spent by the 31st of December 2018 for the construction of the cricket university, officials of Sri Lanka Cricket had failed to commence any construction activities concerning the project.
මේක high performance center කියලා.
We have changed this as a high performance center and we are about to begin the construction of 10 indoor nets and 10 turf wickets.
turf wickets 10කුත් දාලා දැන් විශ්වවිද්‍යාලයක්.
The agreement has been signed based on constructing the university. When was a decision made to change this project into a high performance center?
ගත්තේ කවද්ද?
අපි executive committee එකේ තීරණය ගත්තා සභාපතිතුමා.
කවදද?
අන්තිම කෝප් කමිටු රැස්වීමෙන් පස්සේ.
මෙතන අපිට ප්‍රශ්නය ආවේ මේ විශ්වවිද්‍යාල.
We faced a problem as when we had to obtain approval of the University Grants Commission if we were to change the name of a university. That is why we have changed the name into a high performance center.
convert करे.
Although the Sri Lanka Cricket Chairman had expressed such remarks, a proposal submitted to the National Projects Committee on the 5th of October describes the project as the Cricket Campus Project. Accordingly, a sum of 114,502,540 rupees had been approved to be spent on constructing the lower ground floor of the facility. The cricket campus is expected to consist of a 5-storied building. The total cost of the campus is estimated to be 895,038,320 rupees. Previously, we had revealed that the Secretary of Sri Lanka Cricket had sent a false response with his signature towards certain questions that had been raised concerning the commission that had been paid while awarding broadcast rights for the Nidahas Trophy. That amount is $339,025 US. It seems that the officials of Sri Lanka Cricket, including the chairman, had provided false evidence during the COPE inquiry. When will the law be enforced against the Sri Lanka cricket officials who abuse the funds that are received for the development of cricket?
Newsfirst has constantly reported on the prevailing human-elephant conflict in Sri Lanka. But the question is, why haven't we seen an end to this conflict as yet?
Elephants, which once roamed the lands of Rajarata, have now become refugees and survive on small forest lands near the areas of Navagategama, Galgamua and Kalawava. Elephants spend their day at the Kiralawa Forest Reserve, which is located on the borders of the Kahalla-Pallakale Reserve, which serves as an elephant pass. Today we visited the area after being informed that preparations are underway to cultivate mangoes on a plot of land on the Elephant Pass. A group of villagers had gathered in the area when we reached the location.
අයියේ මහත්තයා ඇත්තට මේ මයින් මේක
ඒක නම් මම දන්නේ නැහැ. දෙන්නකො මහත්තයා වැඩ කරලා ආවා මම ඒක දන්නේ කියද්ද. අපි දන්නේ නැහැ.
ඒකනේ මැනුම් කරන්නේ වෙන මොකක් හරි මේ රජයේ ව්‍යාපෘතිය සඳහාද?
ඔව් වෙන්නේ මේක මහවැලියෙන් තමයි අහන්න වෙන්නේ. මහවැලියෙන් තමයි අපිට වැඩේ බලන්න.
ඔව්.
මහවැලියෙන් මැනලා දෙන්න කියලා අක්කර ප්‍රමාණය අපි ඒ ප්‍රමාණය මැනලා
අක්කර කීයද මයින්නේ?
දන්නේ නැහැ ප්‍රමාණයක්. අපි අර මනින්න පරණ මැනුම විතරයි හේතුවක්.
The Kahalla-Pallakale Reserve has been recognized as a reserve according to the Fauna and Flora Protection Ordinance. The private company has been chosen for the cultivation of mangoes on a land area known as Kiralava. However, villagers claim that handing over a land area of the Mahaveli Authority to a private company aggravates the human-elephant conflict. Environmental groups point out that it is important to possess an environmental impact assessment report to begin any project in a forest reserve, and that this procedure has not been followed in this instance. Villagers say that at least 50 wild elephants and tuskers identified as Rattaka, Ratna, Yatta and Barana live in this habitat during the months of March, April and May. Nearly 300 elephants lost their lives every year as a result of destroying the habitats of elephants. Area residents also point out that such projects may contribute to increase in the destruction caused by tuskers as a result of breaking into villages. If this destruction takes place, wild elephants may enter the towns of Dambulla, Mathale and the surrounding areas.
While this was the situation in the central and north central provinces, what is the situation in the southern province? Let's take a look.
The situation in the central and north central provinces, the situation in the southern province is critical. Wild elephants and tuskers lost their homes due to the malpractice in development activities and the project of the improvement in rural infrastructure in the Wallaway left bank area. The wild elephants are now encroaching the villages. Around 26 wild elephants and tuskers have been killed in the recent past, while 13 people have been killed due to the human-elephant conflict. The Hambantota Wild Elephants Management Reserve was then recommended by the Department of Wildlife Conservation to control the situation. It is still unclear as to why the Hambantota Wild Elephants Management Reserve has not yet been declared for that purpose. The main objective of the reserve was to monitor the movement of wild elephants and tuskers and adjoin the Udawalave, Lunugamvehera and Buddhal national parks to create a combining all forests. Environmentalists opine that this will safeguard the habitats of 450 wild elephants and tuskers. A plan was drawn by the Gajamituro Elephant Conservation Program together with the assistance of state institutions and villagers during the years of 2009 and 2011. It has been more than 8 years since this report has been to the Department of Wildlife Conservation. However, even after the effort made to resolve the issue, Hambantota Wild Elephants Management Reserve has only been limited to a few hoardings and elephant fences. Residents allege that Mahaweli Authority has cleared up the lands belonging to the forest reserve in Hambantota. Allegations have been levelled that these lands are used for gravel mining, stone quarrying, leasing lands for commercial cultivation and other development activities.
15,000 acres of land were cleared to build the commercial city that includes the Mattala Airport, Hambantota Seaport, the stadium and the convention centre. Due to these constructions, the elephants and tuskers have been displaced. Unless you declare this area as a reserve, the human-elephant conflict will only be aggravated.
Gammather carried out an extensive research together with the Peradeniya University in order to explore for solutions to the wild elephant conflict. The research showed that the human-elephant conflict in Hambantota will not be in a position to be resolved if the remaining forest land is destroyed.
And that's the wrap of Primetime News. On behalf of the Newsfirst team, I'm Zinat Musafa, and tonight's news interpreter was Taraka Gabriel. We leave you tonight with another rendition of Negative Sri Lanka. Good night and take care.
Sri Lanka.